Good morning, everyone. How's everybody doing? I want to welcome you to our Nutanix database as a service. Is that right? Am I getting it right? Or
That's it.
Nutanix database services, excuse me. We're going to get started with the boot camp here in just a few minutes, but until then, we're going to have a little chit chat, let everybody get into the room, and we plan on kicking off around 11:10. So I'll probably repeat this again for anybody that's coming in the room late, but welcome. We're glad to have you.
Yes. Happy Friday for sure.
Now you're done with your speech. We had two more people that just joined.
That's right.
Do
it
this
again.
So yeah, it is a well-earned Friday well, not afternoon yet, but we're getting closer on the East Coast. So I know we've got attendees who are attending from all over right now, but yeah, almost on that downhill slide on a Friday.
Waiting on that.
Pretty sure everyone joining on time, and whoever's on the West Coast, we double appreciate it.
Absolutely. Still early on the West Coast.
Yes.
So I see Paul is already celebrating for next week. You're looking forward to Christmas?
I am.
All your holiday shopping and stuff already done?
It's still at the mall. You're gonna go get it.
So you and I are going to the same place this weekend. We'll be both visiting the mall.
Yep.
Todd's also celebrating. Are you actually getting snow where you're at, Tyler?
No, I tell you what, if you guys experienced it, I'm sure yesterday, it was a complete washout. And I was thinking if it was like 15 degrees colder, we would be swamped in snow right now. But it's sunny today.
So funny aside, we've had a little leak going on at our back door. It wasn't so little yesterday. It was more of a puddle. So we know exactly where it's coming from now, and I can fix that. So that's a good thing.
That is a good thing. That's a good thing.
So everybody that's joining in, I just want to say thanks and welcome. We're going to kick off around 11:10. We're just giving everybody a few minutes to get into the room. And until then, we're chit-chatting and just enjoying a Friday morning.
You guys were mentioning going to the mall to do some Christmas shopping. Is that a thing? It seems like everybody just does, the online shopping.
It's funny because it used to be that everybody just stayed online and did their shopping. And now it's like some of the stuff at the store is more plentiful, obviously. But believe it or not, it used to be that all the stuff you get from the store was the stuff everybody had. Now the stuff you get from the store is the stuff nobody has.
Sometimes
I've never seen that shirt before. Where'd you get it?
Well, sometimes when you've got somebody difficult to buy for, I know I struggle with finding things for my mom. I just need inspiration. So sometimes just walking around, I'll be like, that'll do it. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
I had to unfortunately buy a TV to replace one that was not working anymore. And I was like, I need to go to Best Buy so I can see these things.
Oh, yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's terrible. But it is what it is.
Yeah. I know TVs are just something, I tell you, I remember back in the day, whenever the flat screens first came out, they were so expensive. And now, holy cow.
All right.
You could pick up a 65-inch TV for like $400. Not even.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
Todd, I think you just added something to my list if they've gotten that cheap.
Right. You buy it just because.
Right.
It may be time for an upgrade.
Right. Yeah.
if your TV is this wide in the back, yes, it's time for an upgrade.
Do you guys remember the big Sony Trinitrons or whatever?
Yeah.
Yes,
They were enormous.
yes, yes, and they were heavy.
Oh my
So
gosh, yeah.
for a guy, and he threw his back out relocating one of those upstairs. I was helping him. It took three of us to move
Right.
a Trinitron.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah. By the way, for those attending, I have given everybody the ability to speak, unmute themselves and speak. So don't be afraid to jump in on this. I know you have opinions.
Hopefully you all have your shopping done. You're running out of time for the deliveries.
And you know, for all the last minute type shoppers, like this guy, I look down at the calendar and I'm like, oh, I looked down yesterday. I'm like, oh, it's only the 15th. There's 10 days left.
Yeah. Right. That's the that's a bad attitude. That's not a good way of looking at it.
I know, but at the same time, it's also not totally my fault because Amazon has spoiled us all. I'm like, I only need 2.
Right. Right. That's
For
true.
most things.
That's true. And every year you say the same thing. I'm going to get it done early, and you never do.
I don't even tell myself that lie. It's a lie.
Don't kid yourself.
All right. Like I said, I look at the calendar. I'm like, there's 10 days left. I only need 2.
Right. Right. Oh,
Well, I think we have our attendees at this point. It's a minute earlier than promised, but I think it's time that we can go ahead and kick off if everybody's good with that. So
I guess I thought we were having fun, but okay.
we're gonna have some more fun though, Harvey.
Well, that is true. That is true.
From Nutanix. So let's get into that. So I want to say thank you for attending today, and thank you for spending a little bit of time learning about Nutanix Era, which is the former name. Now it's Nutanix Database Services, but it is database orchestration on the Nutanix platform. And we want to say hi and welcome to a few of the folks who are joining us from Nutanix today. I've got Todd and Paul. You may know Paul from previous work, boot camps and workshops that we do. But Todd, we've also got on the phone with us, and he is a Nutanix Database Services Specialist. So we'll take a minute and let these folks introduce themselves. So Todd, go over you first.
All right, great. Thanks, Phil. Like Philip said, my name is Todd Harilla. I work for Nutanix. I've been with Nutanix for just over 3 years. I just celebrated my 3rd year anniversary just the other week. Prior to coming to Nutanix, I was a database administrator for about 14 years, or on the Oracle side. And then I spent some time on the infrastructure side as a storage engineer. A lot of the things we're going to talk about today around Nutanix Database Service impacts both sides, and you guys will see that in the boot camp itself. But I'm excited to bring you NDB today and see what it can do.
Fantastic. Paul, you want to go next?
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, guys. Again, my name is Paul Nguyen. I'm the channel SC here with Nutanix, covering the East Coast. Been here a little over 4 years, 4 amazing years, and working really closely alongside XenTegra. So thank you guys for joining this.
And I failed to mention, we've also got Mike here. Mike, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hey, I work with Paul. I'm on the same team as Paul. So I'm fairly new to the team. So I'm enjoying sitting in on this as let's just say he's helping me being my mentor. So I'm based out of Miami, Florida, and I do the same thing as Paul does, supporting some of the other partners.
Well, Mike, it's great to have you here with us today.
Yeah,
Harvey.
I'll just say, Mike, if Paul's your mentor, you're doomed. I'll
Yeah,
find you another
yeah.
one.
And I'll be seeing Harvey again in January when Paul comes down here in Miami for their kickoff.
That's right. That's right. So I am Harvey Green. I wear many hats, but Phil's taking one from me, aren't you, Phil?
Hey, I'm trying.
So solutions architect, also run the XenTegra Gov business. So for those that are with customers who are state and local government or education, those would fall under, as well as federal government would fall under XenTegra Gov, specialized around that too. So hopefully you guys will get a wonderful kick out of what we have in store for you today. But thanks for joining on a Friday, and hope you get a lot out of this.
And I'll wrap it up. Hi, everybody. I am Phil Sellers. I'm a solutions architect with XenTegra. Fairly recent add to the team, but a longtime XenTegra customer at 2 different organizations. So have known this team for a long time, have a lot of trust with them, and really happy to be a part of them. And then my background, I've been a data center infrastructure person for a long time, too long to count anymore because that's too many numbers. I've focused on compute storage and kind of the Windows platform and lots of other things in between. And I agree with Harvey. This is really, really cool stuff that we've got to share today. I'm excited about it. And so I'm going to get us started with a little bit of an introduction, and then we'll get into the meat of why we're all here today. So who's XenTegra? Well, first of all, we're a services organization, and we do lots of education and events. We also have this really incredible giveaway this year. Work has no boundaries. One of the things to know about us is that we truly believe that you can work from anywhere, and we can help you work from anywhere. And so we're giving away 2 Ford Broncos this year. You can get all of the information here at bronco.xentegra.com. And we would love for you to get in and qualify for this sweepstakes. So there's multiple ways that you can get qualified. All of the details are there on that website, and you should check it out.
I want to ride. If one of you win, I want to ride.
So who is XenTegra? So we are a value-added reseller. That means that we try to not only sell you things, but make sure that those things align with your business goals and provide you with the highest level of services. We do strategic consulting services, helping you get the most out of your products and helping you achieve your business goals across your enterprise or your organization. In addition to that, if you need help in a certain area, we can also bring managed services to help you. We focus in the digital workspace environments, so end user compute, that covers a number of different technologies that you see at the bottom of the slide. That's Citrix, VMware, Microsoft, Nutanix. We've got a growing cloud practice around AWS and Azure. So end user compute and delivery across those platforms. We also partner with iGel for endpoints and a number of OEM hardware partners. And we've got a growing ServiceNow practice helping you solve problems around your IT operations and your IT service management. We've always been an organization that believes at first you build the community and then you create the solutions that serve that community. So a big part of that is events like today, where we get to educate and help you learn about great technology in the ecosystem with our partners like Nutanix. So altogether, we've got a team of 716 years of end user compute experience. That's a huge number. I don't know of another organization that has those kind of numbers, that kind of resource in this end user compute space.
Yes, it's infinitely bigger now because that number was before people like you started too. So now you got to add yours.
Yeah, and funny enough, Harvey and I were joking about it on another call. I'm not going to be the new guy for long because we are continuing to staff up and continuing to grow, and that's a great thing. So just means more resources and more expertise at your fingertips. Our founder is a gentleman named Andy Whiteside. And he said XenTegra was born out of the need for customer enablement and true partnership. And we all adhere to that. We want to be there to partner with you for the long term. We want to help you get the most out of your technology and solve your problems together. It's a partnership where we stand by your side and we want to help you succeed. That's the reason that we do this. That's the outcome that we're seeking. And I think it's pretty cool the way that we try to help you get there with education, fun events, and also just experts like these folks on this slide. In 2019, we were actually awarded the Citrix Partner of the Year. It's a huge honor for a small organization like ours. But it speaks volumes to the team that we've built. Across this slate of folks, we've got sales, we've got consultants, project managers, managed services, and technical experts that can help you and your organization really, really succeed. As I mentioned, events is a huge part of how we enable and how we help you as customers get the most out of your technology. So for all of our upcoming events, check out events.XenTegra.com and you can find the information about when we're hosting them, how to get registered, and how to attend our in-person events. In addition to that, each Wednesday we've got webinars in the US, but then we are starting webinars around the world. For those of you who haven't heard the news, we have recently launched XenTegra in India. And so we'll be starting weekly webinars in India, as well as the ones we host here in the US and Canada. So for information about those webinars, you can check it out at webinars.XenTegra.com. Little tidbit of information. I think we're rebranding those coming up. They're going to be partner spotlights. And so that's really what they're about, is helping you learn from our partners, the folks that we work with every day to help get the job done, and learn from them about what they're able to offer for you. Harvey and I also work hard, if you can call it that, each week to help deliver podcasts for XenTegra. So we've got, is it 6 or 7 different podcasts right now that
I think we're up to 9 now.
Okay, so see, I'm even behind. But we've got podcasts across a number of different subjects. And so we invite in other experts. We look at what's happening, what's new, what's current. And so you can check out all those podcasts on podcast.XenTegra.com or Spotify, Apple, Amazon. They're in all of the different podcast libraries.
Yes.
So we work with a lot of different customers of a lot of different varying sizes. This is our logo slide, and you can see we work across multiple different verticals: healthcare, lots of governmental agencies, banks, industry, it kind of across the board. We have diverse staff that can help with your diverse needs. So each vertical, each business is a little different. We listen closely to where your needs are and try to help tailor what it is to help you succeed. So what all do we do? We're a reseller, so think of us just like you would any other reseller, but we're better because we also do services. We also do solutioning. So we look at the total picture for you and try to help you succeed. So we've got services to offer and bring, as well as managed services to help you supplement your staff if needed. We work across, digital workspace, cloud solutions, advisory services, and then we can also help you with products and product renewals. One of the nice things about this company that I've always admired is that when you do your product renewals with us, we also help enable and turn that back around so that you can attend industry conferences and events like Nutanix.next and help you to get there and learn more about what's going on in the industry.
Yes, and we'll be there with you in Chicago this year. I like Chicago.
Yeah, Chicago should be fun this year. So for those of you who haven't seen the news, Nutanix.next is announced what month again? It's in,
I believe it is in May in Chicago. Let me see the
Chicago.
dates.
yeah.
One
of the other places that we're
working me on
growing
memory.
into significantly with our customers is cloud workspace. So we're getting a lot of things, AWS workspace integration and things like Nutanix NC2 on AWS, all sorts of new cloud workspaces. And that's an area that our customers keep asking us questions about. So that's an area that we're continuing to invest and bring in new expertise to help you succeed as you do more in cloud. We've also got a division called XenTegra Connect. That's our managed services. We work with multiple different cloud providers to help you succeed in cloud, like we were talking about just a second ago. Nutanix NC2, whether you would like to run that inside of AWS or Azure, we can help with, along with our own hosted services or managed services of your infrastructure on-prem at your location. So multiple different ways that we work with customers to help and to deliver. So you can get our assistance on your terms. Little known section for us, we also do staffing. We talk to a lot of very talented individuals as we're out and working. So check out jobs.xentegra.com for more information about our staffing services, whether you need to add to your team or maybe you're shopping for that next opportunity. We can also help with that. But that's a little known service that we also provide as an extra value to our customers. So check that out. One of the other great services that we offer is our free micro assessments. 100% free to our customers or potential customers. It's a great way to get to know us out of the gate. The free assessments will come in, we evaluate your environment, we make suggestions, we compare it against industry best practices and give you that kind of feedback to help your environment run optimally. We have assessments for Citrix, for Nutanix, for VMware, for NetScaler. So if you're interested in us helping to plan, or help to improve your environment or make any suggestions, these are a great way to get started with us. Outcomes for those, we can help with plans, we can quote hardware, quote solutions, we can provide demos for things that we discover during the assessment that may be helpful to you. And then we can also come alongside you with services to help with your remediation or improvements. So now that you know who we are, that's XenTegra. And we'd love the opportunity to get to work with you in the future. We would love the opportunity to help you succeed. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Paul and Todd and let them talk to us about Nutanix database services. Harvey, anything else before I wrap up?
Happy Friday.
All right, Todd, I'm going to stop sharing and hand it over to you, sir.
Paul, did you want to step in or?
Sure. All you, Todd.
Okay. All right, great. All right. I'm going to share my screen. All right. All right. So welcome to the Nutanix Database Service Bootcamp that we're going to be running today. I'm going to go over just a couple slides. I'm not going to bore you with a bunch of slideware, but I'm just going to go over exactly what NDB is, why it was created, some of the database use cases that NDB addresses, and then after that we'll hop into the boot camp and we'll get everybody started, and we'll go there, and you guys can kick the tires on NDB. So NDB service, an NDB Nutanix database service called NDB. In the boot camp, it will be Era. We just rebranded just recently. But the reason why it was created, because when we look at and talk to different customers and some of the challenges they're having around managing databases, a couple top 3 challenges usually pop up. As the database landscape grows in your organization and some of the demands of what's being asked of DBAs nowadays, the DBAs are getting overloaded, right? They're managing hundreds, maybe even thousands of databases across the organization. They're being asked to support different types of databases. It's not just Oracle and SQL Server anymore. Postgres, a lot of the open source databases are coming into the picture. And maybe some of the cloud databases are coming into the picture as well. Developers are asking DBAs for more and more database related resources. A lot of developers want their own copy of the database, so they're having to create multiple copies of your production database. Maybe you're doing some database scrubbing on those different copies, and it's not just one team, right? It's the developers, it's the testers. Maybe there's some reporting teams that want their own copy of the production database to run different reports on, maybe do a little bit data mining, data sciences. So as those asks are getting more and more, developers feel that they're being slowed down, so they start looking to other avenues, maybe database as a service type solutions, and that's causing database expenses to rise, right? If you look at some of the public cloud database offerings that are out there now, yeah, sure, it's easy and it's flexible, but it's also becoming very expensive as these databases grow in size and maybe in different copies of that data. So and you also have to look at the migration processes of having those new databases out there. Maybe you're going from Oracle to Postgres. How do you do that? What does that migration look like? And it is becoming very expensive to manage all of those different environments. And a lot of what our customers are asking for in relation to those database landscapes and how do you manage it? Well, you have all those thousands of databases that are out there. How do you reduce the risk? How do you reduce the effort and cost of actually managing all of those different environments and keeping the performance up to snuff? Making sure that your solution that you're choosing is able to scale and is highly available. And also secure. whenever you start looking at public cloud, how do you maintain that security that you've always had in your on-prem solutions into these other areas, those other platforms or host providers. And also you need to start keeping the cost down, right? And like we said, Oracle and SQL Server are always the stalwarts of the database solutions. But as more and more folks move towards open source and NoSQL databases, how do you manage that? How do you make sure that your DBAs are skilled in managing those different environments, those different database platforms? And of course, how do you enable your developers and make sure that they're getting what they need without burning up your valuable database administrators' times? And not only DBAs, that also stretches into the infrastructure engineers as well, the storage engineers, the network engineers, and the compute. Whenever you stand up a new database configuration, all of those teams are involved in actually standing up that that new solution. And if we start talking about database as a service and you start looking elsewhere, yes, sure, it's automated and it's easy to do, but you still want to maintain that control, right? If you have your on-prem solution, that 3-tier architecture, you control everything, right? But when you start looking at database as a service, a lot of that control you need to be, you sort of lose it. If you spin up a new database in AWS or Azure, yes, you can have access to the database, but you're not going to have access to the database server, and that's really disconcerting for a lot of organizations. So they want to maintain that control. This is where Nutanix Database Service comes into play, because it doesn't matter if you look at the boxes down below on the bottom of the screen. It doesn't matter where your database resides. It could be on-prem in your private cloud. It can be in a public cloud. And also be in a colo. As long as the Nutanix database core is running there, and your database is on the Nutanix platform, NDB can manage that database no matter where it is. It really doesn't care where where that Nutanix cluster is. It can manage it all the same as if it's on-prem, as it's as like you guys have always managed it. And that also goes, and that is true for all the database clustering as well. So if you have a SQL Server always on group configuration, you can have one node on-prem, one node in the public cloud, and one node in a colo somewhere, maybe in your DR location. It doesn't really matter. It can spread the load across all of those different environments and manage it just the same. And it's taking advantage of the Nutanix base platform, things like provisioning and scaling, backups, cloning, snapshots, and doing database upgrades. And it exploits all of those benefits and efficiencies up into the database layer. And as you can see, there's the databases that we currently support. Mongo just got added, but you can see that there's not only the licensed versions of the database platforms out there, but there's also some of the open source databases out there as well. Postgres is a great example of open source. NDB, we also NDB offers the soup to nuts support for Postgres open source. So if you guys are running Postgres and you have a problem in the code stack, you can just call the Nutanix support line and you can get that support that you need instead of going online and trying to find a solution. We're a one-stop shop for Postgres support.
Hey Todd, I've got a quick question for you.
Yep.
So what about the high availability? How do you achieve high availability with NDB?
NDB is a lot of it has to do with the database platform. We sort of leave that. I mean, your database platform is really going to be the solution where you're going to get that HA capability, right? And we sort of rely on that. We support not only single node database configurations, but also things like Microsoft SQL Server failover clusters, always on groups, Postgres. We use Patroni for the Postgres HA solution, and we also support the Oracle RAC solution to make sure that your databases are HA and DR, through DataGuard, Golden Gate, stuff like that. So that's where you're going to get your HA and DR solutions.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
it's far more than I was expecting there.
Yeah. It's all fully supported within NDB, and also, on obviously on the Nutanix core as well. Nutanix and NDB are API first applications. What that means is that any of the functionality in NDB is first brought forward as an API call. So anything in NDB, and you see from the GUI, is just an API call back to the NDB VM in the Nutanix cluster, and we expose all of those calls. So if you don't necessarily want to go through the GUI and maybe patch your database, you can just strip out the API calls and put them in a workflow, an automation workflow that you already have out there. Things like Ansible or Chef. Nutanix also has a automation workflow called Calm. So if you want to leverage those APIs, we fully expose them. We fully expose our API library. So if you want to write something from scratch, you can certainly do that as well. And there's also a command line interface too. So if the some of the functionality within NDB, if you need it to be a little bit more granular, you can get that through the CLI. And we'll see a lot of this in the boot camp of how you can bring up the APIs in there and view them. And you can view them in Python and PowerShell, JSON, a couple of the different languages as well. So I'll leave you with this slide. As we go through the boot camp and go through the lab guide to go through the use cases that NDB addresses, two terms I'd really like you to remember: automation and simplicity. That's really everything. That's really what NDB is really meant to do. Automate a lot of your database management processes that you currently do now. We automate those fully. Those are already thought out. It's already coded out for the latest and greatest versions of the database software. And we also try to make it simple, right? We want to save you time. We want to make it as easy as possible for you to manage your databases, and also make it agnostic. So it really doesn't matter if you're managing your Oracle or your SQL Server or Postgres databases. The process is all pretty much the same. You're going to have the idiosyncrasies, right, of the database platform, but all of those, provisioning, cloning, snapshots, patching, they all have the same look and feel. So it doesn't matter if you're an Oracle DBA and you have to patch a Postgres environment, you can certainly do that because the process is the same. And we try to make that as easy and agnostic as possible. Does anybody have any questions before we hop into the boot camp? Anything you want me to touch on now? I'm going to try to make this as interactive as possible. So does anybody have any other questions? All right. All right, very good. Let's see. We'll shrink that down. A couple of things I want to go over in the boot camp itself. I'll just bring up this slide real quick. I'm going to give you a spreadsheet that everybody's name is in, and when you locate your name, it'll show you the cluster that you're going to be logging into. We actually have 2 clusters today. We're going to spread the folks across those 2 clusters. You're going to get a username. You will use this username to log into the Frame desktop, which is our hosted desktop onto Nutanix, into the Nutanix domain, so you can actually reach the labs and the clusters, and also the lab guides. So remember your user prefix. You're going to use that in the labs. Whenever you locate the servers that you're going to be dealing with, creating new servers, creating new databases. Anything you name is going to use that, your user number. So no one's stepping on anybody's toes. So remember that. When you go through the lab guides, there's going to be some code blocks, some stuff that you have to type in. There is a copy and paste button, so you don't have to remember, you know, to type in the command, because there's some of them are kind of lengthy. Just click on the cut and paste button there, and you can just cut and paste that right into your server. What else do we have? Oh, case sensitivity. Of course, any of the passwords, they are case sensitive. And I think that is about it. All right. So I'm going to stop sharing now. All right. And I am going to, let's see if I can. How do I copy into the chat? Hold on one second. I'm going to go here. Oh, I can't put a file into the chat.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, just let you type.
It just okay. All right. All right. Well, okay. All right. I'm gonna share. I'm gonna share my screen again. I know. Telling you. Where is I'm gonna share my screen again. And I'm just gonna show you. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's not the one I want. Where did my file go? Hold on one second. File open. There it is. All right. All right. So this is, wonder if I can, I wish I could cut and paste this in there so you guys can have it. But so you'll find, just find your name. Here's the Nutanix cluster you're going to be navigating into. Let's see here. I'm going to put some stuff in the chat. For POC 008, and that's the one on the top. Your IP address will be 8.39 for Prism, 10.55.8.22 for NDB, and your and this is just so you guys don't have to type it in each time. You can just cut and paste it. And that'll be your credential, POC 009, 10.55.9.39. XT2 30. All right. Oh, did I just send that to the panelists? I meant to send that. I meant to send it to everybody. Hold on. Let me do that again. All right. And then your frame link in your frame desktop. If you log into, if you just open up a Chrome browser, you can log right into frame. I have got to, where is it? I'll give you that link as well. Sorry, I'm trying to do this on the fly. Bear with me. So if everybody can go to this link for your frame desktop, if everybody can bring that up, and I will also go and share my screen and go there with you. All right. So if you just this is on my browser here, I'm just going to open up a new window. Go to my frame. And this is what you should be. This is what you should be seeing. And I'm just gonna use one of the other users. So my username, I'm just going to use user 10. If I hit next, and I'm going to put that NX2 tech credential, and you'll use that for all of the logins for Era and Prism, and also the one for your frame desktop. You have to accept that. And you'll come up, here's your frame desktop, and you're going to launch it. Just click on the desktop icon. And it'll start a new session. And you should just come up with a blank desktop just like this. And you're going to do everything from this desktop. And you're going to launch everything from a Chrome browser. So if you just hit the Chrome button down at the bottom there, you'll launch Chrome. Is everybody on the call? And you know what? I
one question around credentials.
Yep.
So that was in your message. If you can, Todd, can you go back to the spreadsheet where you had the
Username.
Yeah. Hold on a second. Oh, I think I can. Oh, you know what? I have to go back. I gotta start. I gotta share my entire screen. Sorry, I was just sharing. I was just sharing that one.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, cool. There it is.
There we go.
Yeah.
Can you make it bigger?
Yep.
There. All right, so everybody should be able to see now.
Yeah. So for those of you on the call, I think. Oh, you know what? We didn't let anybody introduce themselves.
We did not. We still.
Darn it.
Yeah, I missed that. So let's take a minute and
Yeah.
we'll let anybody that wants to introduce themselves. So I'll start with Alan. Alan, do you want to introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about your background and what you're hoping to get today?
Well, all right. Might be having issues with microphone.
Yep.
How about is it Ugerson?
Are they able to come off mute?
Yeah,
There
I
we
can
go.
hear you. Yep.
Great.
Oh, hey.
Yes. Hi all. This is Ugrasen. I'm from India. I've been worked more than 10 years in IT industry. Right now I'm with IBM. Now it is spin off with name of Kendall.
Right.
And I'm here supporting Janssen Lansing, Jalal, all over the world, more than 500 plus branch offices plus more than 6 data centers.
Wow.
APAC, EMEA, and US. We have multiple shifts every month. We skip like every month, 30 days, and we have more than 200 plus support from different technologies. I am from HCI and VMware. But this is the day-to-day job. We have more than 3 clusters, which is more than 78 Nutanix HB plus VMware servers. So yeah, this is the daily work, but there is nothing much in such. We are planning for moving to the Nutanix cloud, but it's still under process. It's not finalized, but yes, we are using Amazon and Azure. So yeah, this is the all over everything from my side. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Yeah.
Is Alan still out there?
Seems like he might not have sound
Gotcha.
on.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, very good. So Alan and Ugresin, you guys have here's your username right here. So Ugresin, you're user 04 in the 008 cluster, and Alan, you're user 01 in the 009 cluster. So were you guys able to log into the desktop, the Frame desktop?
I'm just putting my username. Give me 1 minute. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. And Alan, let us know if you're having any connection issues.
Okay, Alan typed, so he can hear us at least.
Okay. I'll just give everybody a second to go in. And what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'll do the lab guide as well, and I'll just share my screen. So I'll be doing exactly what everybody in the class will be doing, and we can just follow along.
Perfect.
I told I got the error. It's saying please contact your administrator. Frame had trouble authenticate you. Please reach out your administrator for assistance.
Can you share your screen? I'm going to stop sharing. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what's going on.
Do I have permission to share my screen? Let me check.
Oh, you know what? I don't know.
Yeah, give me just a second. Let me make you
Whoop.
panelist side. You should be
Okay.
able to share. You have the ability to share now. There it is.
There we go.
Perfect.
Oh. Okay. Huh. Interesting. Can you just open up a new? Did it? Was it?
Yeah. Try just go back.
Try typing in the credentials again.
Yeah, yeah, just do that one, sign in with email and password.
So I think the URL is wrong. We need to
Oh, is it?
to console.nutanix.com.
That, yeah.
Oh, did I?
that is-
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, the one in the chat.
Okay.
Yep, that looks good.
Mhm.
And then that should be the NX2. Yep, that's it. 619. Yep. Hmm. You're can you use Chrome? Just see if that makes a difference because you're using Edge. Yeah, go to the console.
So instead of using that URL, can you use console.nutanix.com?
Yeah, the one in the chat. Yep.
All right.
Yep, let's accept that. All right, great.
I'll get somewhere.
There we go. Yep, now you're good to go. All right. All right, I'm also
Age
gonna.
it's not working. Yeah.
What's that? Yeah.
I tell like from age it having some issue, I think, from age.
Okay, hold there for 1 second. I'm going to put another link, and it's going to be a really ugly looking link here. It's going to be really long for these boot camps. All right. This is a link to the lab guide. So go ahead and open up another tab in that browser right there.
Yeah.
So you might want to do it within the console. Yep, yep, right there. Yep. Perfect. See if you can get there. Ah, interesting. Hmm. I've seen this before. Let me see. Let me generate a new link.
Okay.
I don't know why it's doing that. All right, just 1 second. Try that one. That's an ugly looking link. There we go. All right. That's better. And don't worry, we're not going to send you any spam. All right.
Perfect.
Great. And then on the left-hand side, just it's gonna be Era with this the SQL Server MSQL track that we're gonna be going through today. So yeah, just scroll down a little bit. Yeah. On the left-hand side. Yeah. Yep. And then just click on the Era with MSQL track and configure. Yep. And this is where we're going to start. So it's going to have you just it's just going to have you navigate around a little bit within within Prism and NDB, and just show you around a little bit. The first thing it's going to do is log into Prism Central to get the IP address for Era, for the Era VM, but we already know that. So you can go ahead and just type in, it's going to be 10.55. I think I put it in the chat. I'll just bring it down to the bottom.
8.22. Oh, sorry,
Yes.
10.55, 8.39.
That's it. Yep. So Prism will be .39 and NDB or Era will be .22. Yeah, you have to click advance. Yeah, perfect. All right. Alan, were you able to launch a desktop? If you can, maybe put in the chat. Make sure you're okay.
So usually will be work the same. This.
Yeah, it's going to be admin. It's going to be admin,
Okay.
but you're going to use, yep. Everybody's going to log in as admin, and then it's going to be that NX2 password that you had, that you used to log into your frame. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then Arrow will be also admin. You'll also log in as admin.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. All right.
But
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, the only reason why we're logging into Prism is to get the IP address for the Era VM, which we already know.
Mhm.
Yep. So, all right, you guys are good. So yeah, just go back to the Era. Yep, go to the Era dashboard, and you can start going through the lab guide.
Mhm.
These labs this lab guide will go through SQL Server, and there's also one for Oracle as well. So you guys can, go through both if you have time. These clusters are available until I think tonight at 11 p.m. So if you don't have time, I know we only have this boot camp open until 2 p.m. Eastern time.
Yeah,
So if you
I've
don't
been
have
done.
time
I've been done before all the database lab. Yeah.
Yeah, if you don't finish, these clusters are still available until 11 p.m. tonight, Eastern time. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Sure, we will complete.
Well, great. I'm gonna if you want to start sharing your screen, I'm gonna share mine, and I'm just gonna follow along with you guys in the boot camp. I'll
Yeah.
share my screen. Excellent. And I'm just going to use, I'm going to stay in the 08 cluster. And just go through the lab guide. I'm going to break that out. And the first thing it's going to have you do is register your databases. So NDB, it obviously doesn't have any databases or database servers in it yet in our labs. So that's the first thing you're going to do. You're going to register one of your or your database server. And the first thing it's going to have you do is go to the drop down and go to database server VMs and go to list. And of course, there's nothing here. So the first thing we got to do is register my SQL Server. And like I said, you know, we do support single node cluster or single node database configurations as well as database clusters. So we're just going to go ahead and say SQL Server single node. And there's only one cluster that we have registered within NDB. So that's the only one you're going to have there. And you're going to scroll down to your user your user number for your database VM. And I guess I'll just use 06. Where to use administrator. Remember the passwords are case sensitive. Really not for Windows, but and register. Oh, if you click on the API equivalent, whoop, it'll show you all the API calls of registering that database or that server. If you click on operations, it'll show you exactly the steps it's going to go through to register that database server. And NDB does a really great job, I think. I know when I was a database administrator and we were exposed to some sort of GUI tool to help us manage our databases, really in database administration tools. I always wondered what the tool was doing whenever you did some sort of operation in it, because all you had to look at was like an hourglass flipping upside down or a progress bar. But NDB does a really great job of letting you know exactly what it's doing. So it just gives you that, you know, that confidence or reassurance that if you were doing this by hand, and you'll see this through the database patching and maybe database cloning a little bit, and really through the provisioning routine. So if you were doing it yourself, you would be going through the same steps that NDB is taking to do it as well. So it just gives you that that extra level of comfort, knowing that the GUI tool is doing what you expected it to do. And this registration process takes a few minutes. Alan, were you able to get online?
Alan, don't be afraid to throw your answer in the chat. We'll still be able to see it.
Yeah. What you see on your screen now is this is our demo environment that we have out there. And we have, this is fully populated. We do have all the different databases that we support and registered in here. But one thing I just wanted to just show you real quick. And I know that we only have the one Nutanix cluster that we have registered within in the boot camp, but you can also register other Nutanix clusters in your environment. So you were saying that you have several different Nutanix clusters, and NDB can see all of those clusters. And you know, we have our prod cluster at the top. We have even a couple clusters in AWS that's hosted out there. So and you know, NDB has sight across all of these different clusters. And like I said, you can spread, you know, your SQL Server AG configuration across, you know, maybe your prod and DR or something like that. But yeah, it's a really slick way of like bringing all of your databases into a single pane of glass to actually manage them, instead of going to, you know, gotta log into this tool because my databases are here, and then I got to log into AWS because I have some databases out there. NDB is a one-stop shop, single pane of glass management console for your databases. Go back to my lab. All right, my registration is done. Database server VMs, we can see it out there. There it is. Next thing it's going to want you to do is create a software profile from that database configuration that you just registered. These profiles are leveraged to create new database installations, and that will look just like the profile that you create from your database configuration that you just registered. .06. That's cute. And this is a 2016 SQL Server configuration. I'm going to use my server that I just registered. Some notes I can put on there. Here's my API equivalent of creating this software profile, and maybe some PowerShell will probably be appropriate here for SQL Server. And like I said, we totally expose the whole API library as well if you wanted to write something custom or by hand. And create that profile. The profile creation just takes a few minutes. Along with the different profiles that we have out there, we also have compute profiles, and these are the sizes of your database servers. You have your network profiles that define which VLANs that you have configured in your environment, maybe for prod, dev, maybe other, you know, the other Nutanix clusters that you are managing out there. Database parameter profiles. So if you have OLTP databases or running a data warehouse, we give you the opportunity to create custom software profiles for your instance and your database. And of course, Windows domain. Again, this is meant to really make it easy and simplify a lot of the processes that you do within an NDB as you're managing your databases. And it also provides, some standards in there, because all of these configurations will start to look a lot similar because they're all built from these pre-defined profiles and templates and standards that you create. So, so whenever you do provision a new database configuration, I sort of liken it to, going to a restaurant and, building your own pizza. You're choosing the crust, all the toppings that you put on there. And in an NDB, what you're doing is you're creating your database from all the different configurations, your compute sizes, your database parameters, your protection SLAs that you've already predefined. So it's kind of like those are the toppings that you're putting on your pizza, and in the end, you have your database at the end. So it just makes it, you have that that database as a service experience through NDB. Just makes it very easy to create your databases. And my software profile is done. If we go to it, you can see it. That's out there. Some details around it. Next up, we're going to register our database from the server we just registered. Let's go back to databases. Sources, there's no sources here because we haven't registered or created anything yet. So we're going to register SQL Server, and we're going to go to database. This is a single instance database. The server is already registered. We're going to use our server we have out there. Next. You can group databases within NDB as well. So if you have several databases on the same instance, and maybe they support the same application, you can group them so that they are all protected at the same time. They are snapshotted on the storage layer, and maybe you can restore them or clone them all together. Just treat it as one, to just make it a little bit easier to manage that those databases, because they all support the same application. Even though they are as a group, you can restore them individually or create individual clones of a database that's also in that group. We're going to go ahead and just register this one database, sample DB, and we're going to rename it within Era. User number. Without SQL DB. And then we're going to apply a time machine to it. This is our protection SLA. This defines when the database will be protected. We leverage snapshots to do that. Those exist on the storage layer. They are the blocks of storage that support that application, or that database rather. And whenever you snapshot it, it quiesces the database, snapshots the blocks that the storage blocks underneath that database, and then it unquiesces the database at that time, so that those blocks are now locked, because it's associated with that snapshot. And if you ever needed to restore it, those blocks, the data integrity inside those blocks has to be maintained. And every snapshot is immutable upon creation. No changes can happen to those blocks. If the database changes any of the data in those blocks, it's going to redirect that right to a new block of storage on the Nutanix platform, because those blocks that are locked by that snapshot have to be maintained. We're going to choose a different protection SLA. And if you hover over the SLA, if you hover over any of the information icons, it'll tell you It'll give you some details on that particular template or SLA. So this is a 30 days continuous. That means we're going to take at least one snapshot a day, and then periodically we're going to do a log catch up, which is going to capture the transaction log. So you can get that true point in time restore capability down to the second on your database. And then there's some retention policies that are associated with this SLA as well. You can see we're keeping 35 quarterlies. That's a long time. Here's your log catch up. We'll leave it at 30 minutes, and we're going to take one snapshot a day. Excellent. Registration will take a few minutes. Go to the operations tab and just watch it. You, Gresson, how are you? How are you proceeding? Everything going all right?
Radio silence, guys. Can you still hear us?
I see some activity in the other cluster.
Yeah. Okay. Working so hard, I can't find the mute button. If they're moving, we'll let them keep on.
Yep. That's what this is. Well, this is on this database is busy registering. I'm going to step away for a second and refuel. I'm going to refuel my coffee cup. I will be right.
No problem.
All right. My database registration is completed. Excellent. So now we are all set to create a snapshot I'm going to create a new table in my database. DB server VM, get the IP address. 104. Login as administrator. Using my Nutanix/4U credentials. Yep. You can close Server Manager when it launches. We aren't going to need it. But we are going to use SQL Server Management Studio.
Well, of course we are.
Yep. This is where the magic happens.
That's right. And we're going to use Windows authentication. Going to go to our database. Here's my sample DB that I registered in here. And I'm going to generate a new query. We're going to create a table. Execute this guy. All right. So we go to tables. We can see there's my test lab table that I just created. All right, we're going to go back to our Era window, and we're going to create a snapshot of the database after we just created our new table. Go to databases, we can go to sources, and we'll go to the time machine. Well, it wants you to go to just the databases tab.
You can select that database and just go to here to database actions and create a snapshot as well. Just a little shortcut. We're going to call it user 06. That's me. SQL. First snapshot. Again, API equivalent button is always there. And there's all my calls that I'm going to be using to create this snapshot. Create. This is a good example of just going to the operations tab, and you can actually see the snapshot being created. Still a little bit of pre-processing, and then it's going to validate the database. Do a little more internal preparing to take the snap, and then it's going to freeze the database and then thaw it at the end after the snapshot has been taken. This should only take a few minutes. Probably not even 2 minutes. The snapshot, all it's really doing, like I said, is just taking a snapshot of those storage blocks that are supporting the database at that time. So it really doesn't matter how big your database is. It takes relatively the same amount of time because there's no movement of data at all. It's just taking a snapshot, blocking those blocks, those storage blocks. It's quiescing the database, taking the snapshot, and then it's going to unquiesce the database at the end. So there's minimal impact on the transactions in the database. On the Oracle side, we leverage begin and end backup mode, and those are just normal APIs of the database platform. VSS on the SQL Server side, we use begin and backup mode. On the Oracle side, these are APIs that are supplied with the database platform. So there's no voodoo going on, no crazy voodoo on our side. We're just leveraging the APIs that are already there. Snapshot is done, took about 1.5 minutes. And now we're going to create a clone from that snapshot we just created. Let's go back to databases. And I'm going to click on the time machine. And I'm going to go to actions, and I'm going to create a database clone. I'm going to select that snapshot that I just took, my first snapshot here. Click next. I'm going to create a new server. You might already have a server out there that is housing all of your, your database clones. Maybe you're creating this for dev or something like that. More often than not, you probably already have a server out there with an instance ready to accept this clone. But in this case, we're going to go ahead and build a new server on the fly. So we're just going to call this clone 1. My username, my compute profile. Again, these are all the profiles that you create. We do create some already out of the box for you, but you can customize them or create new ones as you see fit. We're just going to get the default compute out of the box. And if I hover over the information icon, it'll give you exactly what the details are around that profile. Here's our network profile. Again, this is already pre-created of the VLANs that we have are you using in this bootcamp. Administration password. Again, that's that Nutanix /4U. Let's see if I typed it correctly. That fat finger. Nope, I got it. And here's my clone name for my database. So that's gonna be my user 6. And SQL DB clone 1. And here's my database name on the VM itself. Here's an instance name that's already out there. We're just gonna use the default. We could put this guy on refresh schedule if you're creating a new clone for maybe some reporting processes that kick off at 6 a.m. You could say, hey, refresh this guy every day at 6 a.m. So that clone will be out there refreshed from the last snapshot, and for those reporting processes to kick off. Or I can go ahead and remove it as well. A lot of times when I was a storage administrator, we had some databases out there that had multiple clones hanging off of them, and they would be out there for months at a time, and everybody forgets why the clone got created in the first place. So this is a really handy feature that you can go ahead and have it remove itself after a period of time as well. Pre and post commands. These are really important, especially for cloning. Especially a good example of a post command could be something like, hey, I want to scrub some data. Maybe there's some sensitive data that you have in your database and you don't want those exposed to developers or maybe some third-party users that are wanting that clone. So you can go ahead and run a script to scrub that data. Maybe you want to change passwords or drop users. Or if it's a reporting clone you're creating, maybe you want to create some indexes in there to make those reports run faster. You can all put that into a postscript, which is a really, really handy way of doing that. And hit clone. And get our operations tab and just watch that run. This is going to take probably somewhere in the neighborhood of like 7-8 minutes because it is creating a server along the way. So we'll just go ahead and watch this progress. How's everything going over here? All right, creating some snapshots. Great.
So Todd, question for you. So based on this workflow, do we always build one and then basically import and register it, and that's how we create the profiles? Or are there other ways to kind of take a profile and build the first one?
We do give you some out of the box profiles for the open source databases that are out there. But for the licensable, the paid for licensed database platforms, you would choose a database server that you consider a gold copy, if you will, to create those software profiles from that. So it's more it's kind of like what's termed as brownfield. So you have a brownfield server that you have out there, and you create a software profile from that. But from that point forward, you can create new database servers utilizing that software profile. And those are, what we call greenfield databases. Those are newly created from within NDB, leveraging that software profile. And you can update that profile, and we'll get to that in the lab guide as well. As new patches come out for that database platform, you can update your software profile to include those patch sets. I think the CPUs come out, or CU cumulative updates come out every so often. I think every quarter for SQL Server and Oracle. So you just download that, apply it, and you can create a new software profile from it. And you can leverage those to build new greenfield database configurations.
So when we're doing this and it creates that profile for like the server VM, how deep is that going? Is that getting all of like your registry kind of settings and that kind of thing?
So it's more around the database software stack, not so much the OS of the operating system of the server itself.
Gotcha.
Yep. Yeah. So it's a database bits. With the new version of NDB that came out in October for Linux-based, we started with Linux-based databases. You can now do OS patching. So, and I can only anticipate that that's going to also occur for SQL Server, the Windows-based databases as well. That'll be shortly down the road where you can actually patch that database and the operating system.
And at this point, all of the different databases are running in virtual machines, not in containers.
We can support containers that leverage databases. If the database is resident inside the container, currently NDB does not cannot manage that. But if you have a container that's referencing a database that's outside of that container, we can certainly manage it.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yep. We actually have a going back to the software profile and patching. We actually have a video of someone taking I think a 2016 database and upgrading it to 2019, leveraging NDB, which is pretty slick. So it's doing a major release upgrade, not just applying cumulative updates. It's pretty slick. If anybody needs to step away for, to reload on some coffee or grab a bite to eat, I know we're hitting up against lunchtime in a lot of places. So if you have to step away, feel free. We will still be here. Something that's pretty cool that came out in one of the recent releases with NDB is the ability to replicate a snapshot. So if I hop into the demo environment here, since this has multiple Nutanix clusters in it, I was going to hop in here, go to Time Machines. I will pick on this SQL Server database that's out there. And I'm going to take a snapshot of this guy. I'm called Snap 01. And I'm going to replicate. I'm not only going to take the snapshot on my production cluster, but I'm also going to replicate that snapshot to another Nutanix cluster. So instead of DR, I'm going to replicate it to my dev cluster, because that's where I spin up all my dev clones. So I'm going to take a snapshot. It's going to be resident on the production cluster. That's where my production database resides, but I'm also going to replicate that over to my dev cluster. Hit create here. What this really gives you the ability to do is segregate your clones away from your production database, or from your database, your production database environment. You do that because since that clone is built on the snapshot of your production database, if the clone is resident in the same cluster, it might be accessing the same blocks of storage as your production database, because it's based on those snapshotted blocks. The clone, all that clone is just pointers back to those locked blocks of storage from that snapshot. So whenever you produce any IO on that clone, it could also be reading from the same blocks that you from your production database. So once you replicate it, you're moving that snapshot over to another Nutanix cluster, another completely different storage array, so that that IO from that clone will never touch your production database because it's on a completely different cluster. If we go back to operations, here's where I created the snapshot. And here is where I replicated the snapshot over to the other cluster. So if we go back to that time machine, and I'll go to data access management, which actually shows you the relationships that we have with this time machine and where it's replicating to. So here's my snapshot that's being taken on the second node in my AG cluster. And it's being replicated to each one of these other Nutanix clusters on the right-hand side. And if we look down here, here's our Gemini dev cluster where we replicated that snapshot to. It also has a different backup SLA. So I'm protecting my data and I'm keeping it for longer periods of time on this development cluster than my production cluster, which has a I'm only keeping 14 days. So if we go back to an overview in time machines, you'll see down here, here's my Snap 01 that I just took. And if I change focus from my production cluster to my dev cluster up here at the top, I'm changing focus of the time machine. Instead of looking at my prod cluster, I'm going to look at the development cluster. And you can see there's my Snap 01 that was replicated over to this other cluster. So at this point, I can now create a database clone from that newly created snapshot that's been replicated over here, my Snap 01, on my development cluster. And I'm not going to create a server. I'm going to use an authorized server. So I'd have a server already over here that has a current instance running on it that houses all of my development databases. So I'm just going to choose one of these guys to support my newly created clone. And here's my clone name. I'm also going to change the database name on the server itself. I'm going to create it. And also I can put some tags on it. Maybe, maybe a different, I can specify the department actually requested the clone. I'm going to clone it. So that's a really slick way of creating your clones somewhere else. And it doesn't matter where that cluster could be. That cluster could be in AWS, and I'm replicating that snapshot up into AWS, and that's where I spin my clone from. Let's see, how's my clone creek going over here? It's going pretty well. Almost done. Let's see where it is. All right, so it's cloning. Oh, here we go. Cloning the database. It's recovering it because it was, that was a hot backup that I used, right? We quiesced the database, took a snapshot, and now it's going to do a little bit of recovery. Now it's registering the clone. And I'm done. I can take a look at the clone. I can see, hey, there's my server that I created along with my clone. I'm going to note the IP address because we're going to be going on to that server. So if I go back to my desktop, I go to open up a new terminal session. And what was it? What was the IP address? 85. So it's 1055.8.85. Log in as administrator. we go. Open up Management Studio. How's everybody doing in the 09 cluster? All right. Getting some work done. That's good. I'm going to go to my clone database. There's my clone that I created. Here's my tables. And there's my test lab table. I'm going to delete it. And then we're going to do a refresh of the clone and it's going to reappear. Let's go ahead and delete that. Oh no, I just dropped the table. What am I going to do? Well, we're going to refresh our clone. That's what we're going to do. We're going to go to databases. We're going to select my clone that's out there, and we're going to hit refresh. Select my snapshot. Here's my first snapshot that I created. Because we know that has the table in it, the one that I just dropped. So we're going to go ahead and watch that guy refresh. Got some cloning going on in the other cluster. All right. Finishing up my clone, or finishing up refreshing my clone. All right, it's done. So if I go back to my terminal session, back to my database here, I'm just going to refresh my view. Go back to my clone, go to tables, and there it is in all its glory. I restored my table that I dropped. Very quick, very easy. You know, if you were restoring from a backup, I can imagine how long that would take. You know, obviously it would depend on the size of your database, but I mean, refreshing that from a snapshot is just so easy, and these clones are all 0 byte as well, because what they're doing is they're redirecting to those blocks of storage that are associated with that snapshot, that point in time. So there's no movement of data for this database. All it's doing is it just has pointers of those in those MDF and NDF files back to those blocks of data that are locked by that snapshot. And you can create more than one clone off the same snapshot as well, which is just going to save you gobs and gobs of potentially expensive storage. So so it's extremely efficient, extremely quick. Not to mention all of the time you just saved and all of the storage costs you just saved as well. Next up, we're going to deploy a database using Era. Go back to the Era desktop. Databases. Sources. Now we're going to provision SQL Server. We could provision an availability database, but for the sake of the lab, we're just going to go single instance. Create a new server. User 06 SQL 2. And this is where the templates and the standards and the profiles really come in handy. Because like I said, all we're really doing is picking from these menu items, if you will, to provision our database configuration based on the profiles and templates that we created. We control what they look like. And, I mean, you have full control of what it looks like. With the profile, here's my profile that I used or created. Let's get a custom extra small, pretty small server. Network profile. My administrator password. How'd I do? All right. And my parameter and my database instance profile. Hover over there, you can see the details of that profile. You can give mixed authentication for that server, but we're just going to go ahead and stick with the Windows authentication. Use that administrator. Again, we do have the option of grouping these together, but we're just going to go ahead and create this guy in its own group. Fiesta. Here's the size of my database. Here's my database name on the VM itself. I'm just going to leave that the same. 200 gigs of storage. And here's my default database parameters. NDB also injects best practices for each database platform into the provisioning routine. What it's doing is it's going to align the number of data files. It's going to align that with the CPUs on the server itself. It'll give you that parallelization of reads to those data files. So each CPU can access each file in a different access path instead of having a single file and all the CPUs beating up on it. We just give you the best performance possible of that configuration. Also, during the provisioning routine, you do have the option of building a new database from a file level backup of an existing database. So if you did have a database that sits on bare metal or maybe on another virtual platform, you could simply take a file level backup of that database and restore it as a provisioning routine onto this newly created server that you're creating through NDB. So you just tell NDB where the backup is. It'll search that directory for the backup of that database and restore it. And you also have the option of distributing this data across multiple data files per best practices. So you can get it all done in one shot. In fact, we just had a customer that did this exact same thing. It took about an hour and a half of downtime for that database to be provisioned and restored onto Nutanix and managed by NDB. We're going to build this guy from scratch. And last thing up is my time machine. It's going to be a bronze SLA. And provision it. This is going to take a little while. While this one's running, I believe we can go ahead and move on to the next, the last part, which is patching. We'll just leave this run a little bit. And I'll hop in over there. Everybody still with us? You, Gresson and Alan, guys still with us?
I know I am, but you don't want me.
I'm just focusing what you done, no, Todd.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
once you complete, will later on I will complete also.
Okay. Okay. Great. Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, feel free to go at your own pace. Like I said, these labs are open until 11 o'clock Eastern time tonight.
Yeah.
And if
Before, yeah.
And if you really, if you get really aggressive, you can go ahead and do the Oracle one too. Do the Oracle lab if you get ambitious.
Yeah, sure.
Yep. All right, so I'm going to move on to patching. So patching, it wants you to log into Windows. Let's see. I'm going to do that into the Windows Microsoft site. I'm going to download my patch. Let's see, you could actually do it from inside NDB as well. Let's see. But I'm going to download it. I think I already did that through here too. It's just going to take a few minutes. I already have it downloaded. So let's go through the motions. If I go to profiles, this is where, again, this is where my software profile is located, the one I created. So if I click on the software profile, here's my version 1.0. This is the one I created from my database server that I registered. I'm going to create a new version of it. And we're going to call this one 06 SQL 2016 Service Pack 1. And this is cumulative update 15. And I'm going to upload it from my local computer because I have it downloaded already. And there it is. Oh, that's the one. That's the one I want. So it's going to go ahead and load that into NDB. So we'll wait a second while that go ahead and spins up. And these are all cumulative updates, right? So it includes all of the updates that have happened since, obviously since the last one was published. So you don't have to apply them one at a time. You can just do a cumulative update at one time. The Oracle portion for this is a little bit different. Instead of the CPUs, they're called on the Oracle side, they're published every quarter. What you would do here is you apply that CPU to your server and then build a software profile from that newly installed CPU on that server. So instead of downloading the bits of the CPU, you apply it to the server and then create your software profile from it. It's a little bit different from the SQL Server side to the Oracle side. It's just because it's a different OS. All right, got that all loaded. And I'm going to create a new version. So there we go. We got a new version. We got a 2.0 version that we created out there. Let that finish off creating. There's my database provisioning that I started earlier. It's chugging along. You can also view the system operations that are happening behind the scenes within NDB. What we were just looking at, we were just looking at all the different operations of the users that are out there. But there are some background processes that also happen on NDB without your manual intervention. Here's our error resiliency snapshots that are happening on the Era side to make sure that Era is also fully recoverable. You can also HA Era as well, or NDB across multiple Nutanix clusters. As you add clusters into NDB, NDB will spin up a lightweight VM in each one of those clusters so that it can communicate across all of those different clusters and also become resilient from a application side. So I'll go back into my demo environment real quickly here. I can just show you that. So if I go back to administration and go to topology, you can see here I have 3 different clusters here that I have spread the Era application across these different clusters. You can see that there's a proxy node in 2 of the clusters, and this is across 3 different clusters here. And then I have an API server that is resident in each one of those, and also the repository, which is just a Postgres database on the back end. And now that has been clustered across these 3 nodes as well. So if one of these nodes were to fail, Era would just keep on running through a proxy node and onto the surviving nodes within that cluster. So It's so we provide that resiliency for you even from the NDB application standpoint. All right, my software profile has been created. So if I go back to profiles, click on here, there's my 2.0 profile like I created. I'm going to publish it. When I publish it, what that does is that it allows other users to actually use and have sight on this software profile. If this was an older, say if this was an older version that I didn't want to anybody else to use, I can also deprecate it or unpublish it. So no one can use that software profile to create new database configurations. But I'm going to publish it because I do want to use it. I'll publish it. Now that's published. Go back to operations. Let's see how our provisioning routine is going. All right, it's chugging along. All right. So now that I have that newly created software version of my software profile, I'm going to go back to profiles, go back to my my software profile that I have, and you can see that one is in use, and that's my SQL 02 that that is out there that I created. Or is that the one I'm provisioning? Oh, it wants me to update my source one. So if I go to sources, it wants this one. If I go to the database server VM, you can see up here in the top right, this update button is up here now. So if I click on update, it knows that this was created from a previous version of my software profile, and now I created a newer version. So now this configuration becomes an upgrade candidate. And there's my SQL Server version. I want to update to my CU15 version. Again, information icon. You can see the details of the software profile. I can do this now, or I can schedule this for later, maybe this weekend, or maybe sometime in the middle of the night. I can get schedule this upgrade, but I'm going to do it right now. Little safeguard. I got to cut and paste this here so I don't accidentally, inadvertently start upgrading a database configuration. This is, I think, really where the API would really come in handy. If you have a maintenance weekend coming up and you have, a dozen or a couple dozen different database configurations that you're upgrading during that maintenance window, maybe just take out all of the APIs, all the API calls to do that upgrade, and just wrap a, wrap an array around it. Maybe loop through here through a database array, a list of databases, and just perform the upgrade on this loop instead of having to go through the GUI each time and patching it from there. Put some variables in there. Put it in a for loop around an array and do it that way. Be a little bit easier, automate it just a skosh more, and it removes all of the human element out of it. Stops you from having to hit OK, a half a dozen times, 2 dozen times, and really just removes all of the risk involved in applying a patch. And really what you can do is you can even, if you wanted to do some regression testing on a new patch, just create a clone of your production environment, patch that, do all your regression testing on that, blow that clone away because you've done your testing on it. So now you have that confidence going into patching your production environment and knowing that it's going to go smoothly and the application isn't affected by anything involved with that new patch. I'm gonna update it. So my status just went to queued for patching. Doing some pre-processing, and then I'll start patching in the routine. If this database just happened to be in a, in fact, I can go back to demo, and I'll just do it here. Go back to my databases. Here's the sources. This guy here is in a AG configuration. So I click on that database. And if I click on my server configuration, here's a topology of my AG. It is a 3-node availability group. It has 2 nodes in my prod cluster and 1 node in my DR cluster. It's got 2 databases in there. And again, up at here in the top right corner, here's an update. Pretty much the same thing we just did. Different version, looks a little differently. I'm gonna do this now. And what I want to show you, if I do the update here, immediately goes into patching state for the cluster, but these databases are ready. They are open and available even though we are patching this configuration. How does it do that? Let's go to operations. So it's going to stall failover in this AG group, and then it's going to patch the secondaries first. So the primary node of my AG is still serving up database connections, right? Those connections did not drop because the secondaries are now being patched. And then we're going to fail over from the primary to a secondary that's already patched, and then patch the primary. So that's just that's just another way to ensure that your database is up and available for the maximum amount of time, even during a patching routine. Oracle rack, same thing. Oracle's rack nodes will be patched 1 by 1. And if the grid needs to come down, it'll do that at the end. What it's trying to do is it's just trying to maximize the uptime of your database so that those user connections are not impacted by your patching routine. We're just dealing with single instance here, so this guy is down. So let's go ahead and let this patch. Our provisioning routine is chugging along. It's finishing up a couple last steps here. Anyone have any questions? I know I've talked a lot. Hopefully it wasn't too distracting. Registering the database here at the end. And as when we register a database within NDB, the database really doesn't have any idea really what's going on. It's just we just specify some credentials so that we can control the database via NDB. There's a lightweight agent that gets put on the server itself, but the database is completely unaware of it happening really. And if you want to unregister it, same thing. It just removes all of that. The database continues along its merry way like nothing ever happened. And it's all it's really lightweight. All you're really doing is just specifying credentials, and privileges to administer that database really. Put it in backup mode, bring it down, bring it up. And that's really about it. So it's really lightweight, not impactful. And like I said, if you wanted to unregister it, you can certainly do that. It's not going to impact anything. You could lose the ability, to access those snapshots that were taken on the database while it was registered, but you also do have the option to retain them as well. Yeah, my patching database, my patching routine is complete. Didn't even take just a little over 5 minutes to patch a database, a SQL Server, and I didn't do anything. Right, it was completely user free. There's no risk. Like I said, you could spin up a clone, patch that. You have the comfort level that the patch is going to go fine, flawlessly. It's not going to impact the application that database is supporting. So just over 5 minutes, I patched my database. And if we go back to my Frame desktop, where have we got here? Wants me to log into my database again, but does anybody have any questions? I know this is pretty much the last thing in the lab guide for SQL Server. So let's just recap what we did, right? So we registered a SQL Server VM. We built a software profile from it. We registered our database that is also resident on that database server. We took a snapshot. We cloned it. We dropped a table. We refreshed that clone. We provisioned a new database configuration from the software profile that was created from our server registration. And that's still running, I believe. Let's see. Oh, look at that. It just finished. We provisioned a new database and database server. We put a protection SLA on it. It probably took its first snapshot. That's like the first thing it does after it gets done provisioning. Just took over 21 minutes, not even 21 and a half minutes. And then we also patched our server after we upgraded our software profile to a new version. We went ahead and patched our database. So pretty much hit just about all the use cases with NDB. Another thing I want to mention is that NDB can also coexist with other third-party solutions that you already have in-house, maybe. So maybe you are leveraging, even native backups for SQL Server. Snapshots can be taken as well, in addition to that piece of software taking a database backup. You can still take snapshots. Only one solution can back up the transaction logs, of course, for SQL Server. Oracle, different story. But this tool can exist with other solutions. It's got to be a little careful. But what that allows you to do is sort of test the waters of NDB. Dip your toe into the NDB waters without jumping in all at one time. So if you do become an NDB customer, you can sort of phase it on into your business as usual routines that you currently run, maybe with your cloning or something like that. You can clone a database in your old process and also clone that same database within NDB and just have them run side by side, maybe for a little while until the comfort level is there, and then you just phase over to allowing NDB to build those clones, those 0-byte clones, super lightweight, super fast, super non-evasive into your refresh routines.
a really fantastic tour to complete now. Before you left, I thanking you everyone. The very good session today, and happy holiday. I think this is the last. I think this year.
Yep.
XenTegra
It
training
is.
session.
Well, great. Congrats and thank you so much for your time today. Yeah, let us know if you have any issues. Going through the lab guide later, and and we'll definitely support you in that. Hopefully, you'll have a good experience with it. And
Yeah,
enjoy
in
it.
future, if there is before an issue, I already followed a few everyone in LinkedIn. I can ask one-to-one anything.
Fantastic. All
Green,
right.
you and everyone. I'm already sent request.
Oh, excellent. Very good. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Well, have a great holiday.
You too, and hope you'll see soon on 2023. So
Yep.
I'm just going through all the upcoming, sessions. I'm just going to register them.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Very good.
So only the last question here is, what is the mechanism when we do SQL database upgrade? Okay. So how the things working behind, like it is only all the Prism doing yes, or Era having some services, how they, because it is a single user we are configured here. Okay.
Right.
So
Yeah.
can you explain little the background, how it's going?
Yeah. NDB is doing everything from the database perspective. There's really nothing going on behind the scenes with Prism. So NDB is running the entire upgrade process. It's failing over clusters. It does take a snapshot before and after the patch has been taken, because if something does go a little bit awry with the patch itself, we will terminate that patching session and then restore the snapshot that was taken previously. So so that database will just be restored from its former state. But yeah, to answer your question, NDB does all of the patching routines within the solution, not outside of Prism.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Also, something else I want to point out. Let's see if my demo environment is still here. Okay, good. We also have a pretty robust set of role-based access control as well within NDB. So if you have some other teams, not necessarily DBAs or maybe not necessarily infrastructure engineers, that want to leverage some of the features within NDB, you can come in and access control. You can create a user in here. It can either be a local user to the solution or a AD authenticated user. And you can create different roles in here. So if I could create a role called clone admin, and I could grant this to a group of developers to refresh their own clones, and then grant this role to users, and also create an entity sharing policy. What this means is that I can granularly define what I want this person to see and do. So if I say I want you to be able to leverage this time machine, which is where we schedule the clone refreshes, and it's only going to be on this database, on this time machine. I want to grant it to Bala, and I want him to be able to use it. He can't create new snapshots. He can't delete any snapshots. All he can do is use the snapshots, and then I can create another policy that says, hey, I just want him to refresh this one database, and that's it. So whenever Bala does log into NDB, the only thing he can see is this time machine, and the only thing he can do is refresh that clone. That's it.
So the
So it's
question
just
here is, if the same user is part of multiple access, for example, the user Bala
Yep.
is part of the admin group. So what group access it getting?
Right. So you would define a, well, he just happens to be, I just use him as an example. But you would just create a new role for him and just grant that clone admin role to that user and create and grant that refresh clone privilege to that role, grant that role to that user. And that's the only thing he can do. He can't create anything else in here. He can just refresh, that's it. So it's just a really great way to extend the features of NDB to non-database administrators, and and restrict their access to control exactly what they can and cannot do within NDB. If that makes sense.
Yeah, got it. Yes.
Yeah. Very good. Any other questions? Anybody got anything else? Is Alan still with us?
I've got one for you, Todd.
Yep.
How do the patches and stuff get into the platform?
Say again?
How do the patches get into the platform? So if you've got like a SQL release patch or a fix or a service pack or something, how do those get in?
Yeah, you would just download it outside of Era and then register it within here, much like we just did with the whenever we updated the profile. So if I go down to this profile here, I can create a new version of it, and here's where you would load it. You could load it from a file share or download it and get it into your local computer and just upload it right here in NDB. And this is for SQL Server. Oracle's a little bit different. So Oracle, if you were to, if there was a CPU that was published by Oracle, what you would do is you would apply that CPU to your database server of choice, and then create a new version of that software profile from that server.
Okay.
So it's just downloading the patches happens outside of NDB, but yeah, so Oracle and SQL Server works a little different just because of a different OS. Postgres also functions the same as Oracle because it does reside on the Linux OS. But yeah, so that's how you would download the different CPUs and CUs that get published by the database vendor. Great question.
I'll let Alex know to give you a gift card for that question.
There we go.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Alan's still with us. Great.
To quote one of my favorite tech influencer friends out there, that was snazzy.
I like it. I like it.
That's a technical term.
It's a
Right.
very technical term.
There's also a Postgres element to the lab guides too. So if someone really gets ambitious, you can head into that one too. How's everybody else doing? Everybody refreshing? Oh, I see someone refreshed a clone out there. That's great. On the other cluster.
Yeah, that's me playing around.
Oh yeah. In the sandbox.
No better place.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the best part about these. You can go out here and tear this up and not yours.
Yep. That's right.
No
That's right.
consequences.
We also have a let me get you the link. I'm gonna put the link. Actually, I could show you. We also have a test drive feature for for NDB as well. Oh, that's not what I want. Where is it? Where's my link to it? Oh, yeah, I know I can get it. So test drive gives you the ability to take NDB for for a spin on your own time. So it's a real Nutanix cluster. The I just put it in the chat. That will take you to, let's see. Here we go. So you can sign up for a test drive. It'll send you a credential link to activate it. Like I said, it's a 2-hour window. You can extend it, but what it is it it's a little wizard that walks you through NDB. There's guardrails around it. You know, you can it'll walk you through each one of the use cases for NDB. Oracle and SQL Server aren't out there because they are licensable products. They're paid for, so we can't provide it to you. But Postgres and all the other open source databases are out there, and you can just take NDB for a little test drive. You know, kick the tires a little bit more if you want. You can give that link to anybody else, and you can also turn off the wizard and just explore on your own as well. So it's a really good way to another way to to push the buttons and work the knobs and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Alan, are you going to have a chance to access the labs at a later time, or I think he's still out there. And again, like I said, the labs are still, the cluster is available until 11 o'clock tonight, Eastern time. Lab guide is just trying to see if there's anything else. Yep, the update was the last feature. Oh, let's see. I started my patching session over here. So here's my patching session for my cluster in my demo environment. Took about 12 minutes. And there it is, going to patch the secondaries and it patched the primary. And then it also restores the AG group back to its original configuration. So if that primary that we patched at the end there, we'll go ahead and fail it back over. So that primary is now still the primary of the database connections in that cluster. You can also scale the databases in here as well. So if I get here to sources, if I pick on this guy, which one? Here we go. We'll just pick on this guy here. We can do database actions and we can scale it. You can scale the data and the FRA for Oracle. And I believe you can also scale the data era and the logs for SQL Server as well. This is going to be expanded to include CPU and memory as well on the VM side. So look out for that for a new release of NDB. Well, guys, I don't know if you want to give them back a few minutes, or does anybody have any other questions? I thought this was a really good boot camp.
I agree.
Yeah, Todd, once we just select and expand the database, the
Yep.
size,
Yep.
okay. So it is taking from your spare storage, or what do we need right now? For example, in the VM side, if any data is required, so we added from that VMs to from your
Correct.
spare storage. Then we
Correct.
go to expand that storage. So what is the mechanism here it work for expansion?
Right. So that's that's kind of where it does interact with Prism. It's going to go ahead and just increase the size of those files underneath that are supporting that VM. There's each one of these everything is supported by a virtual disk on the on the Nutanix side, on the virtual side. So it'll expand each one of those V disks, those virtual disks that are supporting that database.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, there's a storage pool that you identify that you're going to build whenever you first install NDB. You specify a storage pool that NDB will leverage to create to create your database servers.
Yeah, I got your point. So the storage pool, whatever the raw disk is available, it automatically added from there.
Correct.
There is no expansion manually, or we can say automation required. For example, for the storage pool, if it is 500 GB or some, I think 1 TB, we are dedicated for the database. If in case that is, how can I say, if it is 900 GB or something already utilized, then how we will doing expansion that pool totally, or only expand the storage?
Right. Yeah, there would need to be some, obviously qualification. You would look to see if you can expand it in that storage pool, and if the storage is available. Yeah. Yeah, there's no that's one of the features that's on the radar, is to, whenever you do scale the database within NDB, it's not going to, it wouldn't allow you to expand it past what's available.
Okay.
Right.
So this is the very basic when we're going to create any database. Before that, we just make sure that architects like how much GB you're going to use, maybe for that purpose, we just reserve those space for database only.
Correct. Right. Yeah. And I would encourage that. Even to the point outside of the storage realm, I would think that you would have a dedicated database cluster as well, because you don't want to mix. You don't want to really, you don't want to mix workloads in your cluster. It just gives you a good opportunity to segregate your database workloads outside of a an application workload or something like that, an application VM, right?
Got it. This is the best practice. Yes.
Correct. Yes. Yep. Yep. And we do have we actually do have best practice guides for running databases on Nutanix. We have one for Oracle, SQL Server, and Postgres. So if anybody's thinking about running a database workload on Nutanix, I would highly recommend that you adhere to that best practices document, because it's really going to allow you the most flexibility and guarantee you the best database performance that you can get on the Nutanix platform. So, and like I said, NDB works all of those best practices within the tool as well. Whenever you do provision a new database, it's going to inject all of those best practices that are that are published in the guide onto that new database configuration. And these are best practices that are put forth by Microsoft and Oracle, right? These aren't best practices that that we have deemed valid, these are ones that also Microsoft and Oracle also support. Great question, by the way. Thank you. Keeps me on my toes.
Yeah.
Brain moving on a Friday.
I know, right? Yeah, it's a good thing we didn't run this on Monday. It'd be
Yeah, we tend to try not to run these on Mondays. That's a bad recipe.
Yeah.
Even for
Yeah.
me.
I bet. Oh man. We're coming up on the end of the boot camp. You know, last call. Any any additional questions? Alan, you want to post something? Anything burning up your mind? You know, type it in the Q&A or type it in the chat. Feel free. Crickets.
You're just that good.
I would only suggest here, Green, and then if you could help us in the next time, then participation certificate from XenTegra, it would be great to show, you know, our boot camp sessions.
Yeah. Well, guys, I don't know if you want to give them back a few minutes.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Give these guys a little bit.
Yeah.
Hung out for a while, so I'm perfectly fine with that.
All right.
Appreciate you running this, Todd. It was a good boot camp.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, like I said, it keeps, gives me good opportunity to find out, where everybody is and, what they're currently doing and how NDB can help. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention. The latest version that just came out, 2.5, came out in October. That release is based on just about all of the features that came out with that release was based on customer feedback, which is pretty cool, right? Because once a lot of these NDB customers, they start using the tool and maybe pushing the limits a little more, and and using it in different ways and really using it to its fullest potential. And then they come back to us and they go, oh, hey, it'd be really good if NDB did this, or if NDB did this a little differently, right? So we take that stuff to heart. So we go back to our engineering team. We say, hey, we're getting customer feedback. Maybe we can put this into the tool, work this feature into there, and they get a ticket together, goes into engineering, and it becomes part of the release. So 2.5 is pretty much all customer feedback. So it's just neat to see how, we're really receptive to how customers use the tool. And we'll make changes because we want it to be successful. So you use it and get the most, benefit from it. So, so let us know how we can make it better, and we'll work it in there. Cool. Well, all right, guys. Well, thank you everybody for participating today. XenTegra guys, thank you for having us on.
Absolutely.
And organizing this. It was awesome.
Yeah.
We appreciate it, Todd. Great job. Thank you very much for leading this and showing us this really snazzy new tool.
I know.
I'm keep that going, aren't you?
Snazzy. I'm gonna have to. I'll have to use that whenever I open up my Christmas gifts. Hey, that's pretty snazzy.
All right. Have a great weekend, everybody.
All
Have a
right.
snazzy weekend.
Oh my gosh. Not you too.
All right, take care, guys. Thank you very much again.
Yeah.
Thank you, Todd.
You're absolutely welcome. Welcome to stop by again.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Alan.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
See you soon. Yes. Bye-bye.
Bye.